Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into one of the world's most enduring mysteries. Have you ever looked out over a vast expanse of water, especially one as deep and dark as this one, and just wondered, what could be down there? That feeling of the unknown, the possibility of something hidden beneath the surface. It's almost primal, isn't it? For centuries, perhaps millennia, people have asked that very question about Loch Ness, right here in the heart of the Scottish Highlands. It's a place of breathtaking beauty, steeped in history, but it's famous worldwide for one reason above all others. Nessie, the Loch Ness Monster. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. Nessie? Really? Isn't that just a myth, a tourist trap? And yes, skepticism is absolutely healthy, and we're going to dive deep into that. But Nessie is more than just a maybe monster. It's a global phenomenon, a cultural icon, a scientific puzzle, and a story that refuses to die. In this deep dive, we're not just going to rehash the old tales. We'll explore the ancient origins, the modern sightings that sparked a worldwide frenzy, the serious scientific investigations, including some very recent developments and large-scale searches, and the compelling explanations, both mundane and maybe, just maybe, extraordinary. We'll also look at why this legend persists. What does our fascination with Nessie say about us? About our need for mystery in an increasingly mapped and measured world? So settle in, and let's begin our journey into the enduring enigma of Loch Ness, a story that's about so much more than just a monster. Before we even talk about monsters, let's appreciate the stage itself. Loch Ness isn't just any lake, it's huge. Around 23 miles long, over a mile wide in places, and incredibly deep, plunging down over 750 feet in spots. That's deeper than most of the North Sea. Just think about this for a second. It holds more fresh water than all the lakes and rivers in England and Wales combined. That's an absolutely massive volume of water. And it's not just big, it's mysterious by nature. The water is famously dark and murky. Visibility is often just a few feet. This is due to high levels of peat washed down from the surrounding hills. It creates this perfect environment for secrets. Even without a monster, there's something slightly eerie about not being able to see what's beneath you. Geologically, Loch Ness sits right on the Great Glen Fault, a massive crack in the Earth's crust that runs diagonally across Scotland. This dramatic landscape was carved out by glaciers during the last ice age. It's ancient, powerful, and undeniably mysterious. And overlooking it all, you have landmarks like the iconic ruins of Urquhart Castle, witnessing centuries of human history, battles, and perhaps strange sights in the water below. The setting itself practically begs for legends. Even the most hardened skeptic has to admit, if there were ever a place that could hide a monster, it would be here. So, when did the Nessie story really begin? It depends on who you ask. Some point to ancient Pictish stones found in the region, dating back over 1,500 years. These stones feature intricate carvings of various animals, including one strange figure with flippers and an elongated neck or beak that some enthusiasts interpret as an early depiction of a Ness-like creature. Now, archaeologists are quick to point out that the Picts carved many stylized or mythical animals, and this water beast could be a representation of something else entirely. A dolphin, an otter, or a purely symbolic creature. There's no definitive link, but it adds a layer of ancient mystery. The first written account often cited comes much later from the Life of Saint Columba, written by Azeem around 700 AD. Columba, an Irish monk credited with bringing Christianity to Scotland, was visiting the area near the River Ness around 565 AD. According to Azeem, Columba encountered locals burying a man who had been attacked and killed by a water beast while swimming. As one of Columba's followers then bravely swam across the river, the beast reportedly surfaced again, roaring and heading straight for him. Azeem writes that Columba made the sign of the cross and commanded the beast, "Go no further. Do not touch the man. Go back at once." And astonishingly, the creature supposedly stopped as if pulled back with ropes and retreated into the depths. It's a compelling story, but historians approach it with caution. Firstly, Adamnan wrote it over a century after Columba's death. Secondly, lives of saints from this period often included tales of miracles and vanquishing monstrous beasts to emphasize the saint's power and holiness. Similar stories exist for other saints and other bodies of water. Thirdly, the encounter happened in the River Ness, not the loch itself, although the beast was said to dwell there. For centuries after, local folklore contained whispers of water horses or kelpies, shape-shifting water spirits, inhabiting the loch. These weren't necessarily the same as our modern conception of Nessie, but they kept alive the idea that something strange lurked in these waters. So while these ancient and medieval references are intriguing, they're far from conclusive. The Loch Ness Monster, as we know it today, the global phenomenon, wouldn't emerge until much, much later. Fast forward to the 20th century. For hundreds of years, Nessie, or whatever lurked in the loch, was purely local folklore. Then came 1933. This is the year the legend exploded onto the world stage. What happened? A road. A new road, the A82, was built along the loch's northern shore. This involved blasting and construction, potentially disturbing the environment. More importantly, it offered motorists clear, elevated views of the water that weren't easily accessible before. Suddenly, more people were looking more often. On May 2, 1933, a local newspaper, the Inverness Courier, published an article by its correspondent, Alex Campbell, who was also a water bailiff on the loch. It reported a recent sighting by a local couple, Aldi Mackay, who ran the Drumnadrochit Hotel, and her husband. While driving along the new road, they were apparently startled by an enormous creature rolling and plunging in the water, sending waves crashing. Campbell used the word monster, and the fuse was lit. This local report was picked up by national newspapers in London, always hungry for a good story. The timing was perfect. The world was between wars, craving escapism and wonder. People needed something to talk about besides economic depression and political tensions. Then came another key sighting. In July 1933, George Spicer and his wife were driving near the loch when they claimed to see an extraordinary form of animal, like a prehistoric beast, cross the road in front of them. They described it as large-bodied, long-necked, and moving with an undulating gait, before disappearing into the undergrowth towards the loch. They saw no limbs. This land sighting was huge. It suggested something amphibious, something truly bizarre. Reports snowballed. People flocked to the loch, armed with cameras and binoculars. The Daily Mail, a major London newspaper, even hired a big-game hunter, Marmaduke Wetherell, to track the creature down. Wetherell quickly found large footprints on the shore, claiming they belonged to a very powerful, soft-footed animal about 20 feet long. Plaster casts were made. Excitement reached fever pitch until zoologists at the Natural History Museum examined them. The verdict? Hoax. The prints were made using a dried hippo's foot, likely from an umbrella stand or ashtray base, a popular novelty item at the time. Wetherell was publicly ridiculed. Whether he was the hoaxer or was duped himself is debated, but this incident added a layer of farce and skepticism early on. However, it didn't kill the story. If anything, the controversy fueled the flames. April 1934. The Daily Mail published a photograph that became instantly iconic. Taken supposedly by Robert Kenneth Wilson, a respected London gynecologist, it appeared to show a long neck and head rising gracefully from the water. This wasn't some blurry blob. It looked exactly like the popular image of a plesiosaur, an ancient marine reptile thought to have died out with the dinosaurs 65 million years ago. This photo cemented the plesiosaur idea in the public imagination. For 60 years, it was held up as the best evidence for Nessie's existence. It appeared in countless books, documentaries, and news reports. It became the definitive image of the Loch Ness Monster. Wilson himself was always cagey about it. He claimed he just saw something, took a few quick snaps, and didn't even wait to see if it fully surfaced. He never explicitly claimed it was a monster, just something unusual he photographed. This reluctance actually added to his credibility. Many researchers found inconsistencies in his story and the photo itself over the years. The scale seemed off. The neck looked stiff. The water ripples didn't quite match. But without definitive proof, it remained a powerful enigma. Then, in 1994, the bombshell dropped. Christian Sperling, shortly before his death at age 90, confessed his involvement in a hoax. He claimed the monster was actually a toy submarine fitted with a sculpted head and neck made of wood putty. According to Sperling, the plot was hatched by none other than Marmaduke Wetherell, the big game hunter humiliated by the hippo foot incident, as revenge against the Daily Mail. Sperling was Wetherell's stepson and a model maker. They built the model, took it to the loch, photographed it, and then got a respectable intermediary, doctor Wilson, to pass the photos to the press, lending them credibility. Another man involved, Ian Wetherell, backed up the story. Further evidence emerged later, including analysis of the full, uncropped photograph, showing the object was actually quite small, and accounts suggesting Wilson wasn't even at Loch Ness on the day he claimed. The revelation was devastating for believers. The most iconic piece of evidence was a fake, a prank born out of spite. It cast a long shadow over all Nessie evidence. Many felt the entire phenomenon was now debunked. But was it? The hoax explains that one photo. It doesn't explain the hundreds, even thousands of other sightings reported before and since, including those that predate the 1930s media frenzy like the Mackay and Spicer reports. The story somehow survived even this major blow. The surgeon's photo may have been fake, but the allure of the mystery persisted, and as we'll see next, the search for Nessie was about to get a lot more high-tech. From the 1960s onwards, the search for Nessie became more systematic, more scientific, or at least it tried to be. Early efforts involved the Loch Ness Investigation Bureau, founded in the 60s, which set up observation posts and camera watches around the loch. They collected eyewitness accounts but captured little definitive photographic evidence. Then came technology. Sonar, using sound waves to detect underwater objects, seemed like the perfect tool for plumbing the murky depths. Several expeditions deployed sonar, yielding intriguing but ultimately ambiguous results. One of the most famous sonar proponents was Dr. Robert Rines, an American lawyer, inventor and founder of the Academy of Applied Science. Starting in the early 70s, Rines conducted numerous sonar sweeps. He obtained several tantalizing readings, including some famous underwater photos that appeared to show, well, something. One photo, computer-enhanced at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, seemed to show a large rhomboid flipper. Another, nicknamed the Gargoyle Head photo, depicted a blurry shape with apparent appendages. Rines was convinced he had evidence of a large, unknown animal. However, skeptics pointed out the photos were extremely ambiguous. The flipper could be sediment stirred up, air bubbles, or even a known object distorted by the murky water and primitive equipment. The gargoyle head is even less clear. Subsequent analysis suggested some images might just be tree stumps or rock formations on the loch bed. The largest and most comprehensive sonar sweep was Operation Deep Scan in 1987. A fleet of around 20 boats equipped with sonar swept the loch from end to end, a sonar curtain designed to detect anything large moving below. Deep Scan did register 3 significant sonar contacts that couldn't be immediately identified. They were described as large moving objects deep in the water column. Daryl Lawrence, founder of the sonar company involved, stated, "There's something here that we don't understand, and there's something here that's larger than a fish, maybe some species that hasn't been detected before. But again, no definitive proof. The contacts could have been unusual thermoclines, debris, perhaps even seals. Crucially, the contacts weren't tracked for long, and no visual confirmation was made." Many submarines have also explored the depths, providing stunning footage of the loch bed, but finding no monsters. They revealed a surprisingly barren environment in the deepest parts, raising questions about what a large predator could even eat down there. In 2018, Professor Neil Gemmell from the University of Otago in New Zealand led a major project using environmental DNA. The idea is simple. All living things shed DNA into their environment: skin cells, scales, feces, urine. By collecting water samples from across the loch and analyzing the DNA fragments within, scientists can get a snapshot of everything living there without having to physically see or catch the organisms. They collected over 250 water samples from different locations and depths. The results announced in 2019 were fascinating. They found DNA from thousands of species: bacteria, plants, insects, fish, birds, mammals. What didn't they find? Any evidence of reptile DNA? No shark DNA? No sturgeon DNA? No catfish DNA? Basically, no DNA sequences that strongly pointed to a large unknown creature. What they did find, however, was a lot of eel DNA. Eel DNA was present in almost every sample, from shallow to deep. This led Professor Gemmell to suggest that, while the evidence didn't prove anything definitively, the idea of giant eels in Loch Ness was at least plausible based on the eDNA data. Most recently, August 2023 saw what was billed as the largest surface search for Nessie in over 50 years. Organized by the Loch Ness Center and Loch Ness Exploration, the event brought together volunteers from around the world, using modern technology like drones with infrared cameras and sensitive underwater microphones. So, what did this massive modern hunt find? Well, not Nessie. There were some intriguing sounds picked up by the hydrophones, but nothing that could be definitively linked to a large unknown animal. So, decades of searching, millions of pounds spent, increasingly sophisticated technology deployed, and still Nessie remains elusive, at least in terms of hard, undeniable proof. If there isn't a prehistoric monster, what are people seeing? Science offers plenty of plausible, if less exciting, explanations. The most common explanation is simple misidentification. Loch Ness is home to plenty of ordinary animals that, seen briefly or partially, could be mistaken for something extraordinary. Otters, for instance, can swim in a line and create the illusion of a single, larger creature. When they dive and resurface, they might appear as multiple humps moving through the water. Deer are strong swimmers and regularly cross the loch. A swimming deer with its head and neck above water could easily be mistaken for a small monster from a distance. Fish like salmon and Arctic char inhabit the loch, and while they don't grow to monster size, a large fish surfacing unexpectedly could startle witnesses into overestimating its size. Boat wakes are another common culprit. When a boat passes and then moves out of sight, its wake can create strange serpentine patterns on the water surface that persist for several minutes. Floating logs, debris, or vegetation can take on strange shapes, especially when partially submerged. Add a bit of movement from the water, and your mind might fill in the gaps to see something alive. But the most scientifically supported explanation today is the giant eel theory. As we saw from the eDNA study, European eels are abundant in Loch Ness. They can grow quite large, occasionally up to 4 to 6 feet, maybe even larger under exceptional circumstances. Gemmell himself stated, "We can't find any evidence of a creature that's remotely related to a plesiosaur. So I think we can be fairly sure that there's probably not a giant scaly reptile swimming around Loch Ness." But regarding eels, there is a very significant amount of eel DNA. Eels are very plentiful in Loch Ness. Our data doesn't reveal their size, but the sheer quantity of the material says that we can't discount the possibility that there may be giant eels in Loch Ness. There are also optical explanations. The loch's unique geography can create unusual light effects and mirages under certain weather conditions. What looks like a moving object might be a trick of light and water. And finally, there's psychology. We humans are pattern-seeking creatures. We're primed to see faces, figures, and especially potential threats in ambiguous stimuli. When you visit Loch Ness hoping to see a monster, your brain is already primed to interpret anything unusual as evidence of exactly that. The eel theory isn't perfect. Could a 6-foot eel, even a very fat one, really explain sightings of 20-foot monsters with long necks or multiple humps? Many eyewitnesses are adamant they saw something much larger and more structured than an eel. Okay, so the hard evidence is lacking, scientific explanations abound, major searches come up empty, yet Nessie endures. Why? Why are we still talking about this? Making videos about this, even searching for this creature in the 21st century? This, for me, is almost as fascinating as the monster itself. Firstly, there's the economic impact. Let's be honest, Nessie is great for tourism in the Scottish Highlands. Drumnadrochit bills itself as the Loch Ness Monster capital, filled with visitor centers, exhibitions, and souvenir shops. Hundreds of thousands of tourists flock here every year hoping for a glimpse or at least to soak up the atmosphere. Nessie is a brand, a valuable commodity. There's a vested interest in keeping the legend alive. It's on t-shirts, mugs, stuffed toys, whiskey bottles, you name it. The monster generates millions for the local economy. Secondly, there's the power of folklore and storytelling. Humans are wired for stories, especially stories about the unknown, the mysterious, the slightly dangerous lurking just beyond our understanding. Nessie taps into ancient archetypes of sea serpents and water monsters found in cultures worldwide. It's a modern myth that feels ancient. The location itself fuels this. Loch Ness is genuinely awe-inspiring and a little intimidating. Its vastness, depth, and darkness create a tangible sense of possibility. It feels like a place that could hide a secret. And finally, perhaps it's just fun. Believing or entertaining the possibility of Nessie is an escape. It sparks imagination, conversation, debate. It connects us to a shared story, a global what if? In a world where we've mapped every inch of the planet, where science has explained so much, where mystery seems in short supply, Nessie represents something precious. The possibility that there are still wonders to discover, that the world isn't completely known. So, where does that leave us? After exploring the ancient whispers, the 1930s frenzy, the iconic photo and its downfall, the decades of scientific searching, the plausible explanations, the recent eDNA findings, and the unwavering cultural grip, is there a monster in Loch Ness? Based on the available scientific evidence, the answer is almost certainly no, at least not in the form of a prehistoric reptile or a truly giant, unknown species. The lack of clear photographic proof despite millions of camera phones, the absence of physical remains, the negative results from sonar and eDNA surveys, it all points away from a literal monster. Misidentification, hoaxes, and the power of suggestion likely account for the vast majority, if not all, of the reported sightings. The giant eel theory remains a possibility for some observations, but it doesn't quite fit the more dramatic accounts. However, Loch Ness is vast and deep. Science acknowledges we don't know everything about its ecosystem. Can we say with 100% certainty that there isn't anything unusual down there? Perhaps not 100%. That tiny sliver of doubt is where the legend lives. But perhaps the real Loch Ness Monster isn't a creature of flesh and blood, but a creature of the human imagination. A story we collectively tell ourselves, born from a specific time and place, fueled by media, sustained by hope and tourism, and reflecting our deep-seated need for mystery and wonder in the natural world. Nessie, real or not, has enriched Scottish culture, drawn millions to this beautiful place, and sparked endless debate and scientific inquiry. It's an enigma that forces us to question what we see, what we believe, and what might still be hidden in the unexplored corners of our planet, or even just within ourselves. What do you think? Do you believe there's something unexplained in the Loch? Have you ever visited or seen anything strange yourself? What's your favorite Nessie theory or story? Let me know down in the comments. I genuinely love reading your perspectives on these deep mysteries. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, please hit that like button. Subscribe for more explorations of the world's enduring mysteries. And don't forget to ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Thanks again for watching. Stay curious, keep asking questions, and I'll see you in the next video.